Do you want me to do a little intro?
Now we can just talk to each other. Hi, sweetie.
What's up? You don't want to give the people like a hook? Like, stay tuned for this and this and this.
Well, I'm not doing it for the people.
True. No hooks.
No hooks. You gotta
No
look
hooks.
at me.
I'm going to look at you and the camera. I'm going to look at both.
No, you just gotta look at me.
Do you feel uncomfortable when I look at the camera?
Yeah.
You don't have to look at the camera.
Okay.
But I like looking at the camera every now
Okay,
and
you
then.
can look at the camera. I just want to look at you.
All right. What's up?
Hello.
It's Tuesday evening. 1 week out from having our baby.
Crazy.
Can't really see it in there, but you're definitely pregnant.
Yeah, it's a big shirt. But also, I'm not like massive, but
Yeah, you're not that big, but
I'm still pregnant.
still pretty significantly sized.
If I wore something tight, you'd be able to tell.
Yeah. How you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good. Definitely feeling like baby's just like here. Like he's
You look
just
beautiful.
Thank you. Feeling the need to pee a lot. Feel tired. Learning my limits of not pushing out my days too much.
Did some good exercise today.
Yeah, went out for a walk.
At 39 weeks pregnant.
Yeah.
Walked like a kilometre and a bit.
Is that good?
I think so. It feels pretty good. It feels pretty impressive. Like, it's a
Okay.
decent walk from here to Coles.
I suppose.
And then you carried bags.
Yeah, it was just one bag. I didn't buy much.
A bag. Back to my office.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think
And then I drove home.
I was pretty impressed. I was telling people we saw before.
No.
Like, it was an impressive thing.
No. Thanks, darling.
You're doing great, though.
Thank you.
Not feeling too big. Not feeling too overbearing.
No, but definitely feeling like I'm stretching out. Like my stomach feels very much like pushed.
Taut.
Yeah.
Like tight.
Yeah, very taut. Taut.
No, but taut is actually like...
I know. Sweetie, I know.
Okay, sorry. It's not an English lesson.
Well. Anyways.
That was a good reaction from you. Yeah. Okay, so 1 week today.
1 week today.
What time are we?
Well, still waiting for formal confirmation from the hospital. Learnt that there's a lot of hospital logistics with bookings, especially for a high-risk pregnancy, which I'm assuming we'll get to in a little bit. But yeah, we learnt that you can't book cesarean on a Friday because they need the doctors and surgeons and NICU people to be around.
And they don't want to work on the weekend, apparently.
Well, I don't really know how that
I'm
works.
just joking.
No, well, I don't. But
I'm sure they're around. Maybe. Yeah.
Maybe just limited. Can't be in the afternoons, got to be early morning, and then Mondays preferably not because they only do public listings every 2 weeks. So we kind of had to. We are going public, and
Australia,
which has been great.
Good system, public system.
Great system.
It's amazing, yeah.
And yeah, so realistically, we only had Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
How many free ultrasounds have we had?
Well, we've had
Like 15.
all of them have been free.
Yeah, but it's a lot.
It's been a lot.
Like 15 maybe.
Yeah, probably something like that.
Imagine if we're paying for.
But
each
also
of those.
we've had like testings done and specialists and cardiologists.
Cardiologists. That would have been like $1,000 by itself.
Wild.
Probably.
Yeah. So
Crazy.
Australia.
Public system. We pay our taxes and we get good benefits.
Yeah,
so.
I did my tax return today.
Yeah.
It's always depressing because you never get back as much as you want.
Hex debt. That thing's going to be following you for...
Sorry, baby.
Vader did a double degree. You did a double degree.
Yeah.
Psychology and law.
And law on a
you just
half
wanted to-
scholarship.
Half scholarship.
Which, at the time sounded
impressive.
great, but now I'm just...
Double degree at Bond Uni.
Yeah.
Still going to...
And with a half scholarship, I'm just still paying this off for life.
Still like triple what mine was.
Yeah. Anyways, we don't have to talk about that.
Yeah.
But yeah. Thought we'd just have a conversation.
Yeah. So we're going to unpack what we've been going through, what our baby's been going through, share some of the journey, the ups and downs. It's definitely been lots of ups and downs. And yeah. And then hopefully share this video with friends and family, and it'll be nice. I know we've shared with a lot of people a lot of the journey. We've been wanting to do this for a while. So it's
and
nice
also,
that we're
I
sitting
think
down.
just to encourage maybe even ourselves in the future or even now through this conversation. And, you know, I know people document and podcast a lot, but I think we wanted just to have something to be able to, I don't know,
look back on
and not, I think it was important to be able to reflect on all of this and not just have it go past and not have been able to, I suppose,
remember and have something that we can look back and remember, because you know there's a lot of details that you forget over time, and so it's nice to record them, journaling or making
this is like a little video journal.
It is. What's that? Is that a thing?
It's like a vlog. Oh, no, it's not a vlog. It's just a video diary entry.
Sure. Feels a bit like a vlog.
Now, vlog is like when you kind of go around and like, this is what I did today and come with me to the shops.
Vlogs can be very different though.
Anyways.
We're not vloggers. Sorry. We're not vloggers. This isn't a vlog. Just a video. It's just a couple of people using some modern technology and some fancy microphones that I thought it was a good idea to buy. I actually bought them from my company because I'm going to use them for some business related things.
I hope you're going to edit some of this because it's already like 20 minutes long and we haven't even talked on anything.
Firstly, 7 minutes. If anyone's watching this, just know that you're in it just to chill. This isn't going to be short and punchy. I'm not going to edit this. We're just hanging out.
No, you got to edit it.
Do I?
Yes.
What have I got to edit?
Just make it snappy. People have lost interest by now. Not that it's about the interest.
You can like take snippets from it of like particular parts that you want to highlight, but I think the whole thing, baby.
They don't need 7 minutes of us rambling. Though.
Yeah, they do.
Look, we have creative.
This isn't for the people. Remember, you said this isn't for the people.
We have creative differences
this is for
already.
Us.
That's true.
We get to just sit and enjoy this.
All right. Anyways,
it's I call them companion podcasts.
Okay.
It's not a podcast. We're not vloggers or podcasters, but it's like like you're doing some work and you put us on in the background.
Anyways, moving on.
And you're like, I wonder what Ruben
is contributing to the day.
I wonder what Ruben and Vader are up to, and I wonder what their journey's been like. Let's chuck them on in the background. It's probably going to be a bit boring at times. That's the vibe I'm going for. Right. Also, I tried editing that last one, and it was like really took ages, and it was really bad. I need a new computer to edit anyway. All right, so let's jump into it. Jump into some of the challenges and stuff. We talked about where we're at the moment. We're very much soon to be going in planned cesarean, which wasn't necessarily the first pick. It was more because of other things going on. It was suggested and strongly recommended that we go this route. So that's why we're doing it. And how do you feel about that? Cesarean.
I mean, I think at the end of the day, logistically, there were pros and cons to both, but I'm already at a loss for words. I don't know. I think much of this journey has been just being flexible and not being able to do things the way that I thought it would be. And so at the end of the day, what we're wanting is for our baby to be healthy and for our baby to just have the best possible scenarios that he can. And so...
And cute.
Yes. And so, you know, if it needs to be done by C-section, then I wasn't hard set on any. But I think if we're being vulnerable here, then there's very much an aspect that does make me sad to know that I'm not going to have the natural labor that, you know, a lot of mums and first mums do. But also, I also know a lot of mums and first mums who want to just do a planned cesarean. It's very pleasant. And so I'm just trying to...
Pack a suitcase, like on a little holiday, staycation.
Well, I was saying to some of our friends today, it feels like a bit of a click and collect order. Like you've just kind of done your shopping and then just been like, yep, at 9 a.m. or whatever time, I'm just going to go and collect my baby. It feels a bit like that, which is a bit weird to think about. But yes. Yeah. So I'm 38 and a half weeks. Not even half, nearly half. And then I'll be 39 weeks on Sunday. So when he comes on Tuesday, I'll be 39 weeks in 2 days. So yeah, pretty much.
Like, it would be such a surreal thing, like that moment of like the water breaking. And that was one thing where I'm like, now that we are like close to having a baby, I was like, that must be such a weird place to be where you're like, any day now, I'm going to get a call from my wife where she's like frantic and she's just like made a puddle of amniotic fluid on the floor and it's like go time.
Yeah.
And that's what I realized that would be really surreal and like a crazy thing to go through, and also a little bit like, not sad that we're not going to have that, but like a little bit like, oh, you know, we're sort of missing out a little bit.
Yeah, I think there's a bit element of it being, it's you know, slightly sad that we don't kind of have that. Yeah. We went to watch a movie the other week, and there was a labour scene, you know, not full on, but the character in the movie was giving birth and very much had that moment in the hospital where she's pushing and the husband's there, or, you know, just holding her hand, and then she gets the baby put straight on her, which is, you know, what you'll usually think about when you think about a birth. And I was crying in the cinema because, you know, it's moments like that where you do feel a bit of sadness that we don't necessarily get to have that. Yeah. But also very aware that, you know, it seems like that's what everyone has, but the reality is that a lot of people go into emergency C-sections and don't get this way of birth that they envisioned. And if there's one thing that I've seen a lot of people say about birth plans, it's just to not be hard-sold set on one. If, you know, despite us having not the normal pregnancy, but if we were, then what I've heard from a lot of people is just go with the flow.
Yeah, nice.
So
yeah, and I can still hold your hand.
Absolutely.
And maybe even hold the scalpel.
Yeah, no. Definitely not.
I thought of making a joke with the doctor and being like, can I make the incision? You know how they ask like if I can cut the umbilical cord or something? Be funny. We'll see what mood I'm in on the day. Probably won't appreciate that. Can I slice my wife's abdominal? Anyway, pretty hectic.
Wow.
So yeah, thinking about cesarean's pretty overwhelming at times. Like really, not overwhelming, but it's just pretty hectic. Like thinking about, have you been like trying to protect your mind from not thinking of the logistics of?
I want to say yes. I think some people are really good, or some people do really well in trying to get as much detail and information as they can, and that helps soothe them. And I've learnt that that's not me, because the more information I keep getting, the more I go into panic mode. So I think like less is best in my situation. I think recently I'm trying to protect my mind more, because I noticed that the stress levels go up quite quickly when I think about having a cesarean. I'm a little bit of a chicken, I would say. You know, there are some strong, tough women out there, and I'm absolutely like, I've got my strengths, but when it comes to like my pain tolerance, I don't think I've got the highest pain tolerance. Yeah. So like, I'm even freaking about the local anesthetic I'm going to get put in my back. But in my defense, I had a really traumatic experience when I had a local anesthetic put in my back, like I think it was last year or the year before, for getting a mole cut out. And I didn't realize how painful it would be. And it was really just unpleasant. And so whenever I think about that, yeah, anyways, so I'm freaking out a little.
It's going to be great. You're going to be great.
Thanks. You too.
Apparently it's like you can't feel anything, and it feels like someone's like rummaging in your handbag.
Yeah.
But your handbag is you.
I've heard a lot of metaphors: the rummaging handbag, the fingers in your mouth. I've had it's like a dishwasher. Just got a lot of different metaphors for how this is going to go, and I'm like, none of that sounds pleasant. Like that doesn't sound like something I want to go through, regardless of the fact that you can't feel any pain. It's still just like
not helpful.
It's no
having those mental pictures. You're like, thank you for what you're trying to do in saying that, but it's like, yeah, doesn't really change.
Anyways, I'll let you know which metaphor I identify with most once we've done.
Yeah. Well, shall we chat about our little dude? It is a boy.
Yes,
a little boy.
A little boy.
We don't have a name.
We kind of do.
Yeah.
And I love that you say we don't have a name, and then you've told everyone
we told a lot of people the name
to call him this. And it like, you're like, have you said hi to baby, you know, so and so? And so I feel like,
I just said my baby, and then because they think they know the name, they'll say the name. I don't. Yeah, I've told people the name that is like top contender, and it has been sitting on top of the list for a while now, and it's probably pretty likely that'll be his name.
Yeah, I think so.
60%.
What?
60-40.
Bro,
No.
I'm like at 85.
How much of your hesitance towards the other name, our option B, is stubbornness because of like other people's comments?
There's an element to it, but nah. What I realized is that every time I go and look for other names, every time I see the name, it just jumps out at me, and it's just like, yep, like I like it. I like the meaning behind
Do we
it.
say it?
No.
Why not?
I don't know.
I suppose. Why not?
Well, we can
We
if
don't
you
need to.
want. I don't know. Anyways.
Yeah, maybe like people can have like they can have their own comments on what they think. Actually, comments on what people think has been pretty annoying, isn't it? I feel like when you've had a baby and you name the baby, everyone's like, "Oh, what a beautiful name." When you haven't had the baby and you're like, "This is the name," everyone gives you their like honest thoughts, and so people.
Some people are really honest.
Actually,
you know who you are.
Someone really close to us, one of our like best mates, was like, "Oh, don't name him that," and we were like, we decided today we were going to name him that, and she was like, "Oh, I'm sorry."
No, she didn't even apologize.
She didn't really.
No.
She held on to it. So
I still find it funny. It's all right. It's fine.
as long as we don't name him that out of spite against all those people.
No, well, like we've always loved this name anyways.
What name?
The first name.
What name?
Anyway.
You don't want to say it? Are you scared?
I don't know. Just like sometimes it's better
You're
to
just
keep
talking
it.
to me here.
Well, baby Miles.
Miles. With an I.
Yeah. Miles.
He'll
Soldier.
forever be saying
Gift from God.
Miles with an I. You know that, hey?
No, I don't think so.
Like Ruben, EU.
It's
That's me. That's my line.
I
'Cause
think
people like RUBIN, RUEBE. It's always
well,
wrong.
maybe, but I don't think the Y is as common.
It's probably I would say it's probably as common, like probably like the same.
Nah, I think 70-30.
Anyway, cool name. Miles has a cool meaning. Soldier.
Gift from God. Merciful.
Merciful. Miles chant.
Miles.
It's
Chant.
like a name that's like, it's definitely a name, but it's like you
Of course
probably
it's
don't.
a name.
But like, there's not many people. I don't know anyone my whole life.
But it's
really
not
named
too
Miles.
out there. It's not absurd.
Yeah, as in it's not like a strange name, but it's not common. I don't know what I'm trying to say. And then the other contender, which
You can say it.
it was the first baby name we ever thought of before we were trying to have a baby or like anything. Just what we always really liked the name, and we were like set on this name. And then we went on a period where we thought we were gonna have a girl, and then we found a girl's name. We were like stoked on the girl's name, and then we found out we're having a boy, and then we were like back to the boy's name, and the first name didn't really. Anyway, the name's Charles. Young Charles. Charles Chant. Charlie Chant. Cute name. Good name. Strong.
Means free man.
Free man. I actually like that. You think that's not as good of a meaning, but me, as someone who really values like not free thinking. Well, yeah.
No, totally. But I just think
Freedom
that
of
everything
mind.
after this baby has gone through, the name soldier or the meaning of name Miles being soldier and merciful and gift from God is just way more special compared to free man.
Let the boy free, you know. Free child. Anyway, I think it's 60-40 towards Miles. Also, my great granddad's name was Charles, which is cool. My dad's middle name, Timothy Charles Chant, pretty sure. My dad's middle name is Charles, which is cool.
Yeah, but it's just all like, oh yeah, that's cool, but you know.
Charlie Chant. I don't know. We'll see. People would know the name before they would ever watch this. So I don't know what we're going to do with this video. So it is what it is, baby. It's a big responsibility, actually, picking a person's name.
100%.
They have that name forever. And we could really botch it. We could call him like...
Yeah, no pressure. But I also, I do think that what you name your child...
I don't want to offend anyone.
Really,
I was trying to think of a name that it would be...
Yeah, no,
bad
don't do
name,
it.
But I'm like,
don't do it. But I do
we
think
could have named
that
him...
I do think that what you name your child will like not define their future necessarily, but you are essentially like giving them like
Pebble.
their identity of
We
some
could have
sort.
named him Pebble. Which actually, isn't that what Simon means? And like Peter means rock, and that's why in the Bible when Simon's name was changed to Peter.
Not sure.
I don't know. Someone said that once. It's maybe like half true.
Anyway,
Peter is rock. I know that. Anyway, all right. So it's either Miles, Charles, or Peter, or Pebble.
Peter's not even on the list, bro.
I know.
Anyways, okay. This is not a naming.
Yeah, it's not. So, shall we? Shall we get into it?
Yeah.
The juicy stuff.
The juice. Okay.
The meaty.
Wow.
Bit of it.
Yeah. How do you want to start this?
Maybe just the journey, step by step ish. So you find out you're pregnant, big celebration. We tried for a little while. It wasn't getting pregnant's not that easy. Surprise, surprise. I always thought like, the minute you like slip up or like don't protect yourself, you get pregnant, and it's like this easy thing to do. It's not in reality. It's hard. It was challenging. It took us a while. For some couples, it takes a really long time. And that was a first lesson in reality that we learned. But then we fell pregnant. We actually did have I know this isn't a podcast about all of our whole journey, but we did have a miscarriage. It was relatively early, but still, pretty traumatic for you and pretty upsetting and hard thing to go through. And then we had another chemical pregnancy. And so it was a bit of a journey to get to like our beautiful little boy. But then we did fall pregnant not long after the miscarriage, actually, which itself we'll probably unpack, because that having a miscarriage and then falling pregnant again, I imagine is quite different to just getting pregnant without having a miscarriage. I've found that in a massive way anyway, and we'll remind me later to unpack that. But so we fell pregnant, and then when you get pregnant, there's a bunch of milestones that you hit. Milestone. Sorry about my brain. Milestones. So there's a 6-week scan you do.
It's like a dating scan.
Yep. So at 6 weeks, which is early, like you don't normally find out until you're like at the 4th week, because that's when you actually miss your period. So when you find out that you're pregnant, you're already like 4 weeks, and then like 2 weeks later is the 6-week mark. Do dating scan, which is where they try to figure out the conception date. So how far along you are, and they measure this tiny little clump of cells. I think at that point it would be to see. Yep. So that one is cool. It's not that exciting. And then there's the big next one is the 13 week. Is that?
We actually ended up doing a 9-week scan as well.
Oh yeah.
Which was also free for us.
Medicare.
Yeah, thank you. Because we had a few scares, and that kind of ties back in with the whole, having a miscarriage and then seeing a few warning signs again. So we did a 9-week one, but that ended up being fine.
Yep.
And then we had
like a little seahorse at that point. Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
It's like a weird little looking long thing. It's crazy.
And then we had our 13-week scan, which is where I think
that's nuchal translucency.
That was a nuchal scan.
Cool.
And that's usually like the scan that most people will do to then announce their pregnancy, because you're in your second trimester, things are looking good, pretty viable.
Yeah.
So a lot of people go into that scan being like, okay, cool, we have had that scan, things look good, we can announce our pregnancy to everyone else in the world that we want to.
Yeah.
And carry on.
And they measure, there's a few key indicators they look for in that scan. The name is nuchal translucency, and they're looking at the nuchal, which is like this fluid build-up or skin build-up at the back of the neck. That's fluid. And they measure the size of it essentially. And based on that size, it can give them indicators towards potential complications. So a lot of people actually opt to not do the 13-week scan, which we found out later, because you often get bad news. You like
I wouldn't say a lot of people, but I think some people are choosing.
Yeah, but the point of it is, you mean a lot of people don't?
As in, like, I don't think a lot of people opt to not do it. I think most people still do their 13-week scan.
Yeah, you're right. It's probably more common than not. But some people nowadays, I should say, are saying we don't want to do the 13-week because it usually is like you get this big scare because they'll say, oh, you're in this percentile of this condition and you've got a raised chance of this condition. And so you come away from it being like, oh, well, like, is our baby healthy or like, what numbers should we be worried about? Like, is 1 in 10,000 a scary number? Is 1 in 400 a scary number? Still, like, such a small percentage, but them saying these things and saying that you're in a medium risk category or high risk category, it can feel pretty like, I don't know, it could just be quite upsetting. So for us, we did nuchal translucency. They measured his nuchal and all the other measurements, and they were like, his nuchal was thicker than it should have been.
Hold on. Like,
yeah, sorry.
I feel like you've kind of skipped a few things. But yeah, so we went into our 13-week scan. And sorry, my brain's going to whole different directions here.
You're right.
And I feel like my perfectionism, like, part of me is just like, let's just start again, because I feel like we're just going to all different directions.
If you need to fill in the blanks, just fill in the blanks.
It's fine. But no, okay. So our story begins at 13 weeks, and we went into out like in terms of the journey of where our high risk complications get involved is that we went and did our 13-week scan, and we've gone in, the sonographer's doing her thing. It's our first viable pregnancy where everything's looking good. And she's scanning, and we're getting excited and trying to figure out what's what, or at least I was.
Because you can see the baby, like you can see the spine, you can see the little heart beating.
Yeah, they look very much like a baby at that point.
Yeah.
And everything was looking pretty good, and then I would say probably halfway through the scan, our sonographer just kind of went quite quiet into like a concentration focus mode, and she wasn't explaining things anymore. She wasn't, it just felt like she was looking for something. And from my recollection at that moment, she pretty much just told us like, look, I want you to go see your doctor as soon as possible, or sooner than later, I think are the words. Feels like quite a vivid memory for me. And I just immediately went and asked, why? And she couldn't really tell us too much, but what she did kind of say was, your babe, like, there's something in the abdominal wall that I'm wanting to see that I can't. And so, I want you to go see a doctor. And, I'm trying to ask her different questions of, is my baby okay? Is everything okay? Will everything be okay? And she really couldn't tell us anything, which I understand to an extent, but it was still quite a traumatic moment because, not just based on the history of our journey, but I think anyone in that position would have just started freaking out and being like, you can't even tell me if my baby's okay at this point. I think
some vague reassurance would have been helpful and has very low risk. So I guess like they don't want to say anything because they're not doctors and they don't want to give you a diagnosis that then gets them sued because later you come back and you say, oh, well, you told me this. So they're very intentionally very like, oh, we're just going to like shut up shop and not say anything. But that, like the alarm bells start going off when you go from this like casual scan where you're like, oh, look, there's the baby. Oh, yeah, there's his little hand. And then all of a sudden it's like, it felt like, like you said, things shifted and she was just like really concerned all of a sudden.
Yeah.
She probably, she's a professional, whatever. I don't want to rag on her, but she was probably just like a bit more like negative than she needed to be. And she could have been like, hey,
not negative. I think she's a bit more cold.
This. I'd like to see this. We need to do some further scans. Hopefully it's going to be okay. Hopefully everything's all right. Something like that has some vague reassurance that's not like telling us the diagnosis. But anyway, that's my little
We're not sonographers, so it's hard to...
I'm definitely not a sonographer.
Hard to comment on
Are you a sonographer?
That profession. No. But yes,
We could be after the 15 scans we've had.
That's true.
I reckon I'll be pretty good at that tracing one they do.
Yeah.
Crazy cutters.
Yeah.
Mario Party.
Maybe.
I win that every time, by the way.
Well, let's play after
I've
this.
I've actually never lost a game.
Anyways.
I just want you to know because you probably haven't noticed every time I played that game.
Wow.
Just saying. It's true.
Humble.
I'm not. It's just a fact. Sorry if it sounds. What? It is genuinely true.
I hope.
I've been keeping record because I'm like every time
I hope this
I don't
baby.
make a big deal of it when I win. I'm like, oh, cool. But in my mind, I'm like, another win.
Wow.
100%. Sorry for the person I am.
You silly boy. Yeah. Anyways, so that's kind of where our journey began of just figuring out.
Yeah, things not being exactly like
things not
ideal
being right.
or a bit like, oh, we're a bit concerned about some things.
Yeah. And so
thank you for telling that story.
That's okay.
Like I just jumped straight to the facts and
I was like,
whoa. You took us on a journey.
Well, I think for me, you're very much the factual, and I'm. Yeah.
And you probably feel it more than because it's going on in your body. So the experience for you is probably more like I forgot some of those things until you mentioned them. And I'm like, oh, that's right. Whereas you probably would remember them a lot more vividly.
Very much
because you experienced it.
But I mean, that's an interesting part of this conversation is just, how things have affected me and how things have affected you and what things have been like for one another and supporting one another.
Should we pull out of the 13-week moment and talk a bit about that while it's in our minds? And then jump back into the story after 13 weeks.
Okay.
We're not in a rush. Like this is what we're doing this for.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you don't want to go into the whole, because there's a lot to unpack in terms of how things have been for you further after the 13-week scan.
Good point. We'll circle back. Okay. So
This is why it needs editing anyways. If it's not edited and you're watching.
Let them work it out with us.
Let me not, I'm letting you know that I'm pro editing.
If you hate this because it's not edited and you absolutely hate this and it's just like an awful video, tell us.
No, don't tell us. I'm not made for that.
No, tell us the editing's bad. Be like, Ruben, where were you?
Yeah, okay. Anyways.
Why didn't you cut that out? I think it's all good.
So after the 13-week scan, after that scan, immediately the next thing was waiting for the doctor's report. Much of this journey, I think the hardest part has been the waiting, because you don't just get a scan and find out then and there what's wrong. You've got to wait, whether it be for 24 hours, whether it's a few weeks, and it can be quite excruciating. And so for us, the next waiting game after the 13-week scan was 24 hours later, we got a report from our doctor and the doctors who reviewed the
head sonographer.
Yeah, the head sonographer, who've reviewed the scans. And there were essentially 3 things on the report that they were concerned about from that 13-week scan. The first one was he did have a high nuchal. I think it was it 3.6? I think it was 3.6.
Something like that.
It was 3.6 millimeters, and anything over
anything over 3.5 or 3.4. So it was like just over the threshold. It was
just over. Yeah. Generally indicates that your baby could be at risk of having Down syndrome. Yeah. So that was one concern. The next concern was this abdominal wall defect. Yep. At that time, they hadn't diagnosed what it was yet, but just noted that there was an issue in his abdominal lining.
So what happens? It's like at week 11 or 12, like before that, your abdominals kind of come out of your body. So meaning your intestines, your liver, probably your stomach and different things. And then they actually turn upside down and go back in. It's this crazy process that happens. It's wild. But that's, so things come out, they flip upside down, go back in. And when they are going back in, there can be issues where it doesn't go in properly. And it's a pretty rare case, but it's called an abdominal wall defect. So there's a few different options that it could be. But at this point, they're just like, it's some sort of defect that we can see. And it seems like very much like we can definitely see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the third issue was third concern was that they were having some concerns about his heart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
So pretty much that was the report that we got. And, at that point in time already, we were starting to receive conversations or bring ups from doctors, whatnot, about the risks involved, the future likelihood of everything, and
possible
again,
termination.
Possible termination, which
it's a hard conversation to have. It's hard to hear.
It's hard to hear
when you've tried for a baby, prayed for a baby, had a miscarriage, gotten pregnant again, gotten excited, gotten further along, and then and you're hoping for the best, and you get some kind of bad news, and then like you're being asked, hey, like essentially, do you want to carry on with this pregnancy or not? It's a pretty heavy, like, even though we knew the answer, we knew where we stood, it's just a heavy question to be asked by a doctor.
Yeah, it's just very confronting, I think.
Yeah.
And I think, and honestly, we love our doctor because he's really thorough, and he's been great, so great. But I also remember in that moment, you remember some pretty vivid conversations and situations, and I remember asking him, do you think this is gonna resolve, or do you think there's a possibility that this could get better? And I remember him actually telling me, no, I think things will get worse, way more likely than it will ever get better. And so pretty grim report. And at that point already we had been praying, let this all just be a mistake, or let it resolve, or let it all just be nothing, essentially. And then hearing, oh, actually no, this is...
Every confirmation's like another little, like, realization. Things aren't normal.
Things aren't normal, and there's a lot of uncertainty. At that point there was so much uncertainty, and I think we didn't really know what we were really faced with. And so
there was like, we were in a very high risk category for Down syndrome, Edwards syndrome, and Patau's, was it that?
So they're the three
chromosomal abnormalities. So 13 pairs of chromosomes we all have, 26, it's called trisomy. So you have a third chromosome on one of those pairs. So pair 1, 2, 3, 4. If you've got an extra one on the pair of 13, trisomy 13 it's called, that's Down syndrome. If you've got an extra chromosome on the 7th, anyway, that's how it works. I found that interesting looking into this, that it's about pairs, and rather than a pair you've got like a triplet, and that's what Down syndrome is. And if it's a different chromosome, then it's another syndrome, but each of them have different challenges. And in fact, Down syndrome is probably one of the it's one of the less fatal ones. Better health, long-term health outcomes and whatnot. The other two that we were told, they have pretty grim reports. And one of them in particular is linked closely to abnormalities in the abdominal lining. So we were like, we even had, between ourselves, had to have some conversations that were like, okay, well, this is what our life could look like, and our baby could have this, could have that. And like, we're going to choose to love him and to journey through it, and choose definitely keep the baby. Was always it was actually a harder question to answer than I thought it would be. I think you often think you have clear-cut answers about some of these questions, but it's not until I was faced with that question that I was like, oh, this is actually a little bit harder in reality to just answer. Like, if your baby has this condition and is likely to only survive for a year and have a very hard, short life, like, do you definitely carry through with the pregnancy? And we decided yes, absolutely, regardless. We would do what we could and journey through it. But it was hard to...
Yeah, I think it's one of those things I don't know about for you, but what it sounds like for you as well. But, you say it now and it's like, oh yeah, we just made this decision. But the actual wrestle of having those conversations, thinking about life with
because you have to imagine your life with that. Like,
and it's actually just so confronting. And whilst we decided, of course, like, we will love this baby and go through life with this baby, like, doing the best we can, I think it's still a harder conversation in reality when you're actually going through it. So I think we've learned a lot of empathy.
Yeah, grace for other people and empathy for people's decisions and journeys. And and so after the 13-week scan, after the reports, they referred us to maternal fetal medicine, which is a high-risk clinic at the hospital. Kamada, our local.
Often called MFM. And I got a call from them saying, we have scheduled to see you at 16 weeks.
So for a more detailed scan.
So
like these people are like the scanning specialists.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're like, we'll get them in, you get better imaging, you get better resolution, etc.
Yeah. And so they said that they would...
later?
Yeah, they'd say they'd see us at 16 weeks, which at that point I was 13 weeks. And
we thought it was like fully urgent. We were like...
But everyone else made it sound to be urgent.
Yeah, it's
and
like,
so,
okay, tomorrow we've got to get a scan somewhere else. And they're like, oh, I'll come back in 3 weeks. And we were like...
Yeah.
Huh?
And so that was part of one of the patient, patient waiting games of, okay, I've got to wait 3 weeks now to figure out what's going on with our baby, if he's okay, if he's, well, you are. I was very conscious to not Google because I knew it just would do nothing for me in terms of my mental health and trying to think positively. And so I think I left the Googling to you.
Because once we started getting reports, abdominal wall defect, I'm like, okay, what's that mean? We sort of found out there's two sort of options.
Yeah.
Not options, but there's like...
But I think I really actually appreciated in that moment one thing that I learned, and I didn't actually realize this until I think you had told me, but like there were things that you had Googled and that you had found out that you didn't tell me because you were trying to protect me. And so I think you had found out certain information of, if it is this condition, then that's often linked to this genetic... Yeah. There's this other genetic condition which can be quite bad reports in terms of survival rates and all of this stuff. And so I'm really, really appreciative and just like thankful that you protected me from that and knew, where you had to draw the line in terms of what was beneficial for me to know and what were things that you're like, okay, cool. Like,
yeah. And part of that is because I would like read these things and I wasn't just like Googling, like, I've got a headache, and getting all these random reports. I was like looking into pretty detailed reports, case studies, most of them were in America, but like clinical journals. I wasn't like just looking up WebMD. So I got into some pretty deep studies and different trials and different case studies in America that were like these different conditions and different outcomes and looking at different key indicators. Like there's actually a few things that I sort of found at like the nose bone, a few random things I like learned by reading these journals that I then was able to like ask doctors about. And we actually got some like clarity at one point from that, which was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Like there was in the 13-week scan, one of the big indicators with Down syndrome is a nasal bone. So often they don't have, or it might be Edwards. Either way, like the presence of a nasal bone in early 13-week scans is like a drastically changes the likelihood of it being a certain condition. And so I went back and looked at the scans because we got them on the computer, and I was like, babe, he's got a nose bone. You could sort of see it, and then we brought that up later with the doctors, and they're like, yeah, actually that is like something that we look for. And
yeah, it's funny the things that doctors choose not to tell you, like until you bring it up, you're like, oh, we found this and that, like realize that this could mean that, which is hopeful. And they're like, oh yeah, that is definitely a thing. And we're like, well, why didn't you say that? And so it's interesting what doctors will tell you and won't tell you, and often I think we realize that they tell you more of the things to not be hopeful about than things to be hopeful for. And I get it to an extent that they have to try to not get your hopes up too much. And I think one thing that we've kind of learned is like it's kind of go in with like low expectations and be pleasantly surprised.
Low expectations of what they might tell you.
Yes, exactly.
They're not like, you're not going to go in there and they're not going to go, oh my goodness, come on in, let me like just like celebrate with you. They're going to give you the facts. They're going to give you the risks and the likelihoods of certain things, and they're not going to give you the likelihoods of like, how big and strong he's going to be. It's always going to be like things that are potential. Yeah,
especially when we're already high risk already.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we had to wait until 16 weeks, and they had booked me in to also do an amniocentesis, but actually told me that, you can cancel that on the day or, decide not to proceed, but we rather you do that. And so an amniocentesis that I learnt during the 3 weeks is where they take fluid from your amniotic sac and then they go and test it for genetic chromosomal defects, essentially. So they test for the major 3, and then they also do what's called the fishing or microarray or something like that, where they test for everything else.
Heaps of stuff, yeah.
So we kind of went in, and I remember going into it, or going into the 16-week scan thinking, I probably don't want to do this. Because, like I said, I have a low pain threshold, and the whole thought of a needle...
It's a long needle. It's like that long. No joke.
Yeah, I didn't look at it.
Which you wouldn't have known because I watched it.
Yeah.
You didn't. But it's a needle. And there's no, like, anesthetic. It's just a needle that stab through your, like, stomach, through your muscle layer, your fascia, everything, into, like, your womb, and then into the amniotic sac. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah. And also because it carried a slightly increased risk of having a miscarriage. And so that obviously was a big fear of ours as well. But after doing the 16-week scan on the day, and plot twist, well, not plot twist, what's that word when you're like, you gave it away? I have baby brain, so... what's that when you're like, when you've given away the plot line?
Spoiler alert.
Well, no, that's not it. Anyways, because you said it before, we obviously did the amnio because you saw the needle.
I don't really know what word you...
Oh, it's gonna bug me. Anyways, yes, but yeah, we ended up deciding to do the amnio on the day because when we got into the 16-week scan, they had officially diagnosed our baby with this abdominal wall defect, and then essentially said to us, look, this diagnosis often is linked with other genetic stuff, and regardless of your decision whether you want to proceed or not with this pregnancy, which we decided that we obviously wanted to, it would help you to like prepare and help us to prepare, and knowing that they are trained specialists who do this quite often. They made us feel very comfortable in actually deciding to proceed with the amnio. So we did that.
Yeah.
At the 16-week scan at the MFM.
And she did great. You did great, babe.
Thanks, love.
You're amazing. I was very impressed in that moment because you talk about having low pain threshold. They stuck this needle in and just kept going in. It was just like... I'm
so glad I didn't watch it.
I watched it and I was just like, oh my goodness. And you did amazing. You just sat there. You've actually done you got so many blood tests and stuff.
Yeah.
And you've done really good.
Thanks. I've actually said that that's probably been one of the most beautiful moments in our marriage so far, is having to go through that process with you of doing the amnio. For me, it has been anyways. Really? Yeah. I often think about it.
You were squeezing the heck out of my hand.
But it was just, it was just for me a really beautiful moment where I think I leant on you or leaned on you more than I ever had before, and we're in this situation where you never think you'd be in, and I relied on your strength because I just was so scared, and I just remember holding on to you, looking into your eyes. I remember you like talking to me and just saying like, it's okay, just breathe, you're doing so good, like just breathe. And it like, nice. I get emotional every time I talk about it because it was just like, it was honestly so beautiful.
Man, that was awesome.
And I really,
I killed it.
Yeah, baby, you killed it. But no, I like loved you so much, and you know, just
then in that
moment. No, that came out wrong.
I finally realized you're all right, babe.
That's not what I meant, but you know, it was just like I just felt a whole lot of love. So yeah, really.
Yeah, it was a nice little moment as that needle went in and you squeezed my hand.
It was a beautiful moment in the sense that of like it was a really hard moment as well.
Appreciate that. It was nice to be there together. There's been actually lots of moments through this pregnancy where I've just really appreciated the union of marriage and the beauty of a husband and a wife going through this journey together. And it again, like I guess it stirred maybe empathy or compassion for like single parents. I'm like, man, there's so many things that you go through. Even all the scans and stuff we've gone to together, we've been able to like talk through things. The reality is there's a lot of people who go through a lot of this stuff alone, or just you know, have maybe friends or family. But like the closeness you have, a marriage partner, going through these things together. That's why I big fan of marriage and big fan. Believe that it's definitely God's plan and intention for this to be the way it is.
It's also really beautiful when your wife's lying there doing an ultrasound scan, trying to figure out what's what, and asking your husband, I can't tell what that is. and then you just responding, how can you not tell what that is? In front of the sonographer. And I'm just there like,
Yeah.
It's just really hard.
I don't think I said it like that exactly.
Oh, there was definitely some sass to it.
But I can see, yeah. Well, I honestly, it's like, I thought it was
really
so clear.
hard when you're lying down,
Yeah.
looking at a scan, and you can feel
looking
where
at an ultrasound is like not that easy.
But like from my point of view, all I feel is where they're pointing their monitor. So you're kind of aware in your brain of where it's connecting to your body.
Yeah, true.
But then you're also trying to figure it out on a monitor, and so it's really confusing, like some of what they're saying or where
good way to really pat
it
out.
And then your husband's just like, how can you not tell?
Sorry.
Anyways, we had a good chat after that. Hey, it was just a one-liner after. I was like, can you please next time just gently maybe tell me what I'm looking at instead of just lecturing me? Anyways,
I'm a bit of a know-it-all. Like if you didn't know that, you know that. And how's it been with me?
Have
like,
you not been able to tell through
how's
this?
it been with me? Have I been insufferable in those scans with my questions and my little like trying to like act like I know what? Oh, cerebellum, like, you know, little comments like that where like.
I think, no, for the most part, it's been okay. There have definitely been a few moments. I think you've been better as the scans have progressed. I think in the earlier scans, you definitely had moments where you were like, oh, that's the cerebellum. And, oh, yeah, are we looking at the aorta? You know, when you ask a question, knowing that you're like, you're not asking the question.
Validate your knowledge.
And I'm like, bruh, this is about our baby, not your brain.
I think it was one of the first scans we had that, the 6-week scan where the lady's like, oh, are you in the medical field? And I was like, stop it, you stop that.
But it could have just been more like, oh, are you in the medical field?
It wasn't. She was impressed. I don't even know what I said, but since that moment I got a big head. I've always had a big head.
Moment. Let's just rewind this back to like, oh, I've never lost at Crazy Cutters.
Yeah, just that one game. I've lost plenty of other. I'm honest, like, you know, I've lost lots of other Mario Kart games. Lots of them I've got average sort of, but that one never lost.
Okay. Anyways, well, yeah. So all that to say, 16 weeks, we did the amnio, and we officially got our baby got diagnosed with having an omphalocele, or as some other medical professionals. Term it. Exomphalos.
Yeah.
Don't know why there's two names. Apparently there are. Yeah. Not important.
There's two that it was gastroschisis or omphalocele. Actually, it's now one you want me to talk about.
You can talk about that if you like.
Anything else you're going to say first?
No, you go for it.
Okay. So yeah, we found out it was omphalocele. It was either that or it was gastroschisis. So those are the two common genetic abnormalities, abdominal wall defects. And so gastroschisis is where it's more like a hernia. So it's where usually just intestines. Yeah, your intestines are out of like somewhere beside where the umbilical comes in, and it's like it's herniated out. So it's like a little string of intestines, and essentially they have to like tuck it back in after, stitch you up. That's that, and it's literally like just your intestines floating in the liquid the baby's in. There's no special covering over it. They're exposed. So that's gastroschisis, which our baby doesn't have. Our baby has an omphalocele, which is the other side of the coin, and it's where the similar sort of thing where the organs are outside of the abdominal wall, and it's because usually the abdominal wall hasn't like closed properly. And so it's usually bowel, so lower intestines and whatnot, and possibly liver, and possibly stomach. It can be like a lot of stuff, or it can be like a little bit. Ours ended up being large, I believe. So there's like probably small, medium, large, and giant. That's, I think, the 5 or the most common categories. Ours is large, which means it has liver. But basically it's outside of the baby's body, and it's covered in the membrane of the umbilical cord. So where the umbilical cord comes in, that's the point in which the contents have herniated out into that. So the cord's like, it's big, and then it kind of comes in. And so it's more protected in some ways than gastroschisis, but it's often larger and has more chance of having more organs in it. And both of them have pretty good potential outcomes. So both of them, it means surgery. So it means like surgery pretty much as soon as they can after birth. And there's risk of infection, and there's like all these associated risks with surgery on a baby. But they say there's really good outcomes of the baby having a good, healthy life, and after the surgery, having good recovery and being able to be a normal child. So it was reassuring once we found out what it was, then kind of like saying, okay, well, it's got good outcomes, and it's really highly likely that our baby will be okay. It's not going to be a super normal pregnancy and first few weeks of his life, but we're still really excited and really glad that there is a path forward, and praying a lot and hoping a lot that things would either improve or just be steady. We've prayed every night for our baby, and we pray for him that there would be some sort of miracle, because that would be amazing. And we believe in God, and we believe that miracles do happen. And if not that, we've just been praying for good outcomes, for good medical technicians and people, and just that, things would go well. So anything else about omphalocele?
No, I think that's mainly it. That's...
So our particular case with the omphalocele is no bowels, which
No,
we
they
found out
were
much
worried.
later.
Yeah, they were worried that there were bowels. They originally said bowels and liver.
It's normally like bowels is like the most common one, and then it's usually like and liver.
Yeah.
Whereas ours was weird that it wasn't bowels, and they're
It's
like, well,
just
liver.
liver.
So it's a little bit of a strange case.
Yeah.
But it's quite a lot of liver still, so it's still quite a large omphalocele. Probably proportionally, it's sort of like me having a basketball under my shirt. I think
a bit scary to think about, but
yeah, it's pretty hectic. And so it's mostly liver, which they push in and then they stitch him up.
Yeah. But that all just gets done at stages. Like, it doesn't happen straight away.
Yeah.
And
there's
there's
other
a lot of
things they have to look for, like the lungs and heart.
Yeah. So I think I think we've skipped a few things already again, but that's okay. Circling back. So he's been diagnosed with an omphalocele. And at that point, at 16 weeks, we got that diagnosis. And we also did the amnio, and to find out if there were any genetic concerns.
Yep.
And so that came in 2 stages.
That was a heavy waiting.
That was a heavy wait. The first wait was 24 hours for the 3 major chromosomal defects. So that's the Downs, the Pateau, and the Edwards. And then the rest would come in 2 weeks. And so, the first phone call, I think, has been one of the hardest days of my life, was just waiting for that phone call to...
It was like a Friday afternoon. It was like 4:30 they said they'll call.
Yeah, it was like a 4:30. I don't know if it was a Friday. I can't remember the exact day.
It was like end of business.
But it was like end of business day. So I just remember the whole day. I think I cried the whole day, just like knowing that I was going to get... Like, you get definitive news, you're about to answer a phone call where the doctors are essentially going to tell you, like, yep, your baby's got this, or no, your baby's all clear. Yeah. And so it was heavy. Yeah. How did you find the day?
Yeah, hard. Like, I guess you've been like, lots of the language they're using is about like high likelihood and high risk factor. So I think you really prepare yourself for the bad news, and like you really have to sort of wrestle with that news before you get it. It's like the anticipation often is worse than the actual, like with a lot of things in life, and the lead up to it is like the anticipation can be really hard. So I think I was just like trying to, I guess, just be hopeful.
I think you went out for some of the day for like a meeting or something like that. I remember you not being home for a little bit. Yeah. But I also know that by 4:30 I was just like looking at my phone every second, waiting for this phone call. And that phone call essentially didn't really come. But
Yeah.
I don't want to get into the nitty gritty. I don't want to get anyone in trouble.
But throw shade at the hospital.
But anyways, we eventually got this phone call and heard the news that our baby was clear of the first 3 trisomy testings, and so I think I just cried some more once I heard that, and I think I asked them.
That was a pretty beautiful moment.
Yeah, actually. I think I just kept asking them like 3 times, like, "Are you sure? Are you sure? Does this mean this?" And I kept trying to get clarification to be like, "Are you telling me that there's definitely not any of these 3 things?" And so, it was a beautiful moment. It was a relieving moment. It was also just like a really emotional moment.
Yeah, highly emotional.
Yeah, and then we had to wait another 2 weeks for the other results to come back.
Yeah.
I think that wasn't as bad in terms of the waiting, but it was still just like knowing that there were lingering things out there, and every now and then your mind kind of like spikes and does things and thinks different things.
Yeah.
But long story short, we got all cleared of that too. Funnily enough, just for memory's sake, they actually like called to be like, "We need another week because some of the test results didn't come back, like they were a bit confused or inconclusive, or the sample that they took wasn't great, so they have to actually retest." And so I was like, "Are you joking? Like 2 more weeks and you're telling me I have to wait 1 more week again?" Anyways, it is what it is, or it was what it was. And so we waited another week. They told us it was all clear from that point of view. And so I think from that point, for a few weeks, you and I lived in this like nice, blissful bubble of kind of tricking ourselves into thinking that we were having a normal pregnancy. Because I think we were just like, we had just gone through these big hurdles of like, okay,
being really, really bad and being like potentially really bad or really hard. Yeah. And then being like, oh, it's not those things, and it's like the best case of what it could have been. Yeah. In some ways. So we were like, oh, yeah.
You're kind of just living on cloud 9 and just being like, oh, you know, like we're having a baby, and just, kind of forgetting that we were high risk, which was, I think it was actually very necessary. I think it was the kindness of God that kind of allowed us both to get on that journey so that we weren't in this like fight or flight mode this whole time. We could just enjoy enjoy a brief moment of being like,
we're excited to have a baby, and it seems like it's going to be good.
Yeah. And then I think it was either the 20-week scan or 24-week scan. We kind of were humbled a little bit and brought back down to reality.
It was 20.
Yeah, they mentioned that baby was starting to measure small. Because at this point we started to do scans every 4 weeks, which then later turned into every 2 weeks. But baby started to measure small, and so they had a few concerns. They started to have a few concerns about his heart. And then also, I think around 24 or something, we met with the the surgeons, and then the NICU nurses. And
was that 24?
Might have been
30.
No, it might have 24 or 28.
It was so long ago.
Yeah. But anyways, and I think the combination of all of that again then brought us back down into, hold on a second, our pregnancy is not normal.
One of the doctors in particular, we had one meeting with one of the doctors after a scan, and
it was grim.
It was immediately after this couple of weeks where we were just like, oh yeah, good news, this is exciting, we're having a baby, we can't wait. And then like the doctor's like, he kind of came into the room and was sort of had this like, I'm sorry for your loss kind of vibe going on.
Yeah.
And almost like not the verbatim, but he kind of said something along those lines where he's like, hey, like I'm really like sorry that like you're having to go through this. And we were like, we're having a baby. What do you mean? Like this is all good. And he's like, you got a really long road ahead of you, and it's like it's gonna be really hard. And he was just very like somber, perhaps is the right word. Like, and it really brought the vibes down, brought us down a bit to be like, okay, we're still in this. Like we've still got a baby who's high risk of not surviving, and of having like lots of complications and lots of things they were still concerned about. So brought us down for sure.
Brought us down. I think there've been a few times where probably people at the MARTA would have seen me crying outside the car park and just like having a moment. But yeah, I don't know where I was going with that.
Met with the specialists.
Yeah,
surgeon.
met with specialists, met with the surgeons. Well, yeah, I think I think the specifics of timelines is that since that 16-week official diagnosis until now, we've just had numerous conversations still and tests and concerns where baby's small or the heart's an issue, which we've now done an echo and had a cardiologist tell us that it's not actually an issue.
Yeah, he was happy with it.
Yeah. And
the axis was a little bit off, but
the axis was a bit off
because his organs are partly out of his body. Everything's a little bit displaced from where it would normally be. So like his lungs and his heart are sitting a bit lower than they would normally be because his diaphragm, which is it's a muscle that runs through here, moves up and down. It keeps your chest cavity and your abdominals separate. It's sort of either relaxed or a bit weak or just like lower because of the omphalocele.
Yeah.
So everything's like pulled down. And so that's why one of the challenges when they do the surgery and when they are treating him is to like push it back up in a way that doesn't like put pressure up on his heart and lungs. So they'll be monitoring his breathing and his heart whilst they try to put the pressure onto the liver to push it in. That's like the stage 1, like you said, there's a few stages. So stage 1 is trying to flatten it and get it all back in.
Yeah.
Do I go stage 2 and talk about that? Yeah, sure. So, because the stage 1 was pushing it flat, and this was a surgeon told us this actually, which he was really nice. He was a very
apparently one of the most established surgeons in Brisbane.
Yeah.
So
he's a beast.
Yeah, sounds like he knows what he's doing.
He's the guy. So they push it flat, and then depending on where the skin and the umbilical lining join, like that junction, because like it goes from being skin here, and then all of a sudden it's umbilical cord. So there's like a junction point, and that like so they sort of need to stitch the skin up. You can't stitch the umbilical cord because it's a different type of membrane. So they need to like stretch his skin over, and depending on how much skin there is, they'll just have to see how that goes because they can't see it in the ultrasound. So like we'll try to pull it over. If there's enough skin there, we can sort of pull it and stitch him up, sew him closed. In which case he won't have a belly button. Well, regardless, he's not going to have a belly button. Which
unless he gets a designer belly button.
They can like try to like sew his scar in a way to look kind of like a belly button. Which I think I'm like, if you're not going to have a belly button, just own it. Lean into that, you know. Because your belly button is like remnant of your umbilical cord coming in, and his umbilical cord is like this whole thing. So like they're kind of like, yeah, he'll have like a scar down the middle and no belly button, which I think is kind of cool. Jeez. Is he moving?
Yeah, just moved a little.
Just kicking around. He's like, yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
I always say that I'm going to call him like Deadpool because Deadpool's got like the scars and stitched his mouth. I don't know. I like Deadpool, so that's not. Anyway, my battery's about to die. Switch batteries.
Sad.
So where are we up to? Dr. Borsey?
Yes.
Let's pause here. Have a drink of water. Do a little wee.
Yeah.
We'll be back.
Okay.
Fresh taro from Fat Thai. Taro News Place. I don't know about fresh taro.
Yeah, no either.
It's like, tastes like a mix between like coconut, biscuits, and dirt. Yeah, nailed that. Try it. Tell me I'm wrong.
I did. I don't know. Not after you said dirt.
Try it. Coconut, like with some of the husk. Bit biscuity.
I don't like it.
You don't like the dirt, do you? I like it just a bit. It's different to like the taro. You get like that pink, purple taro.
Purple taro. That's elite.
Okay. All right, we're back. Both did wheeze. Can confirm.
Yeah. It was a satisfying wee. Yeah. Sometimes.
Oh yeah, because you haven't.
Yeah. Well, I saw a really relatable video on TikTok where It's like one of those memes that you're just like, yes, you get me in life. Where you're like, but the pregnant woman's just busting to go to the toilet, and it's talking about like how the ratio of pee that actually comes out compared to the ratio of like the level of busting is just not even.
It's not correlate.
No, because often the pee's just like lasting for like 2 seconds. You're like, oh,
Was that it?
apparently that's it. But it felt like, you
Pretty
know,
funny.
yeah.
And I'm also a bit sad for you because that's, yeah.
Yeah, well, it's one of the many fun things of pregnancy that you don't get to experience, unfortunately.
You've been doing a real good job.
Thank you.
Great job. I just had a really big piece. Coconut.
Of taro. Anyways.
It's taro, but it tastes like coconut.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, so I think we kind of like touched on his diagnosis. We touched on Bub's diagnosis, and, you know, I think...
Love you, mate.
Yeah.
We love you very much.
We do love you very much.
You're amazing.
And so, yeah, there's very much still a journey ahead of us. And even though this is an isolated issue, and that's a big, you know, that's a big win. That's a massive win. You know, thinking about all the other different discussions that we've had about other genetic defects that it could bring or whatever, and his heart and all that, we've kind of overcome a lot of hurdles already. And, you know, it's not the end of the story. A lot of the next chapter will begin once he's born, which is where there's an anxious excitement about his birth.
Yeah.
Because like you said, the doctor's very much worried about his breathing. He keeps highlighting that to us every discussion. I feel like he's like, you know, it's very much just worried about his breathing when he comes out. And so it's not lost on us that we're not at the end of the journey yet. And so we're trying to stay hopeful. Well, I'm trying to stay hopeful. But
I am as well, for the record.
Well, yes. I just feel like you're always hopeful. I am probably more of a pessimist. Or just...
It's interesting. So I can be pretty...
Yeah. I think I just overthink things too much, or just worst case scenario, too much. And anyways, and so that's been a journey. But yeah, you know, whilst it's a very good success rate in terms of what the doctors have said and whatnot, I think there's the uncertainty and the unknowns. Means that we just don't know what the future necessarily will look like. And so, yeah. And so when we did meet with the surgeon, he did say, you know, you're probably wondering about his life expectancy or his, I think he specifically said, you
outcomes,
know, the health outcomes and his life outcomes, and very much highlighting, you know, what is his likelihood of survival. And the two major things he highlighted was everything should be okay unless infection happens or rupturing of the omphalocele happens. And so there is still risks out there. But we're just...
Those two are the biggest things they've got to try to avoid.
Yeah.
So it means delivery is a bit more sensitive, and that's why they opted for a cesarean. So we want to be able to control as much as we can about his arrival into the world. And then the next step, which we'll talk more about, is that after he's born, he's pretty much whisked straight away from us, because they've got to... Firstly, the theatre where he gets removed is really cold, apparently. And we've got lots of great things in our body that keep us warm. But you have an exposed organ. That organ's got no capacity to insulate itself. And it's not good for it to be in cold air. So we need to cover it up to try to limit infection, because it also doesn't have our skin's an incredible membrane at keeping out bacteria and stuff out, whereas the umbilical cord is not. It's not made for that. So there's higher risk of him getting infection. There's just they'll have to take him straight away, and so that's been pretty hard for you. Maybe get you to talk a bit about that, about how it's felt, saying okay, no sort of skin on skin contact, no breastfeeding initially for possibly a little while. That's been a big, quite a big challenge. So maybe dig into that a bit.
Yeah, I think there's numerous points of this journey that has just led me to grieve. And I've learnt that that's okay. I've actually been seeing a psychologist to process all of this because I wanted to make sure that I can mentally be as healthy as I can going through what we've gone through so far, especially once baby comes, that I didn't want anything, I just didn't want this to not have processed properly, which has been really helpful. But yeah, I've learnt in that process that there are things that, because it's not the normal pregnancy, and I keep doing this because I'm just so aware that like there's the normal pregnancy, but everyone goes through different complications and different challenges. But yeah, part of it has just been grieving the birth of our baby, and we don't get the natural, but it's a cesarean, and that's okay, and I've made my peace with it. But there's grieving that part where I had always thought that you'd be with me as I'm pushing and all of these things and making jokes, and it'll just look slightly different. Sorry. You'll probably still make jokes, just in a different setting.
Like offering to cut.
Yeah, exactly. Having to grieve the fact that once he comes out and I deliver with him after the C-section, the likelihood of me being able to hold him and have skin-on-skin contact is very minimal. And so had to grieve that part of it where I don't get to hold my baby. And in fact, I know that some of these mums, I've joined a Facebook Phallus-Hill support page, as you know, mothers of Phallus-Hill babies, have said that they haven't been able to hold their babies for weeks or months. And I know that every case is different, but I think it's just, you realize that could be us. And I don't know when I'll get to hold my baby, and I pray that it'll be sooner than later, but it's another step that I've had to grieve in this process. And there's also the physical challenges that come with not having skin on skin and, thinking about, well, what does that mean for me hormonally?
Yeah. Because breastfeeding is wild.
Yeah, breastfeeding is wild. I didn't realize
how complicated and crazy it is.
Yeah.
It's like, it's hormonal. Yeah. It's like your brain, so much stuff happens in your brain and your body that allows breastfeeding to happen.
Yeah.
It's actually like, we found, because we talked to that lactation consultant. I got to join for the meeting.
Yeah. It's good. You're very attentive and asking lots of questions. Yeah, it was great. I really appreciated that.
But yeah, it's crazy. Like, I didn't realize it was all that. So involved. And it can be really challenging. Again, another thing that you just think is a given. But for a lot of women, whether it's their supply is really hard or it can be really painful.
Latching, all of that stuff.
Lots of things. Anyway.
Yeah. So, yeah, just grieving that, and even grieving part of the process for you of like not being able to hold our baby, not having that normal process. Because, we're going to touch on, or we can touch on it now or whatever, but, feeling connected to the baby, it must be so hard as a dad, not holding the baby and only being able to feel kicks and whatnot. But like, I very much would envision that the connection really comes once this baby is earthside and you get to hold and cuddle him and really like have that moment of realization of like, oh my gosh, this is my baby. And it's just going to look slightly different for us. So I think that's been really hard to process and has taken me time, and still takes me time to kind of have that. And, there's the comparison games of seeing people who have had their babies, especially this year, because there's been a lot of pregnancies this year, have had their babies and been able to do that and go home, within 24 to 72 hours. And just be able to like really enjoy that first stage of parenting as first parents, brand new baby, and just get to go home and like be there with them. And for us, like, our baby is going to be in the NICU for, the reality is, a few weeks, at least. And so there's just moments in that where you just kind of have to grieve that process of like, okay, well, ours just looks different, and that's actually really hard because we don't get to go home, and we actually have to probably go and visit the hospital day in, day out.
We get to go home, but the baby doesn't.
Yeah, and we have to leave without our baby, which I think will just be a really like, I mean, I don't know what that process is going to be like, but I can anticipate that not being the easiest journey. And so it's been a struggle, and you've seen me be emotional about that at numerous points, and I try not to dwell on it too much, but I've also learned that I've had to allow that sadness to come, and process those emotions when they do come. Yeah. And so, I mean, how has it been for you? Not from my end, but as in like, what does it feel like from your end?
Yeah, you touched on it when you mentioned just before, the whole like, how do I connect with the baby? Firstly, actually, I'll mention our baby does kick a lot, very active. Since like our 20-week growth scan, the sonographer doing the ultrasound was just like, wow, he keeps moving around everywhere, and well, okay, there he's moving again. So like it was kind of a cool thing it was quite reassuring and quite encouraging that like he was very active, and we were joking that he's a bit like hyperactive, like I tend to be, and so it was like, I don't know, that was a nice little thing it was a form of connection I started to form, where I'm like, oh, it's my little dude in there just like having a little party, wiggling around, and kicks a lot, and now kicking, moving, rolling. Who knows what's going on in there? It's just, sometimes it's wild. You can see her whole stomach like, yeah. Sometimes you can feel his like leg like slide down, yeah, like push against, like, yeah. It's wild. So that's been cool. And there was moments when I first started to feel that, where I was like, oh, you start to get more of a sense of this is real, and there's like a little human, a little person in there, and that's my son, and like, how crazy and how amazing is that? And again, it's probably more delayed onset for me than it would be for you actually carrying the baby. But I feel like I've definitely been able to connect. I think it took us a while, actually. One thing, it took us a while because we thought we were going to have a girl, which completely unfounded. And we were like, but we just like had a strong feeling, and lots of people were saying, oh, you're going to have a girl. We're like, cool. And so I think we were really like, had not come to terms with, but we were really like excited to have a girl. And we'd thought that through. We'd had a name, all these things. And then when we found out we were having a boy, I was like, awesome. But it took me a while to realize how awesome. Now I'm like so stoked that we're having a boy, and I'm like love him so much, and I so can't wait to meet him and stuff. But at first I was like, oh, it's a little dude, it's a boy. It like took me a while to get to that point, and I think I had to really think about it, and I don't know what changed really, to be honest. But at some point I just became like really stoked to have a boy. And now
because we pictured life with a girl, like we're like, okay, we'll do this with a girl, and there's all these fun things with a girl, because we just apparently somehow just got our minds stuck on the fact that we were having a girl.
It was the Chinese calendar.
Yeah, the Chinese calendar apparently told us we were having a girl. Yeah. Anyways, yeah, and so, but then had to switch gears into realizing we were having a boy. That, and I think like you and I have talked about the fact that with everything going on, I think it took us both a little while to accept the fact that we were having a baby. Because
that's a huge one.
For the longest time, we were just like, I suppose, in that survival mode of just like, we don't even know what's going on.
Yeah, we kept like just being like, oh, anything could happen, like it's just so present in your mind that you could have a miscarriage. That's the reality. Especially, it's probably like that for some people in general, but particularly after you've had a miscarriage, and you've seen that that's a reality, and you've seen the stats, and you've heard all these bad stories and stuff. Like we were so hyper aware of that, and because of his extra health conditions, we were more so not waiting for like bad news, but we were like prepared and didn't want to get our hopes up. I think it's the biggest thing. We were just like, let's just wait, let's just see, let's just keep praying and keep like hoping that it's going to be all good. But it wasn't like a hopeful excitement, like, oh yeah, we're having a baby. It was more like we think we're having a baby, and we hope that he's going to make it. So I feel like it's probably a protection mechanism. So we were trying to protect ourselves from being hurt, potential risk aversion or whatever it is. But it meant we probably took a lot longer to come to terms with it, get really excited. Acknowledge that it was
coming to terms with it.
Yeah, legit.
Yeah.
Same. But like, even acknowledge that we're like having a viable baby, like that we have a baby that is like, he's in there, he's going to be okay. Yeah. Like that has been such a long process of like believing that, and actually like thinking that's actually the case. That's been weird, and like a bit not sad, but like it would have been cool just to not have have those thoughts.
Yeah, I think so. I think, we touched on it before because we did have a prior miscarriage. I remember the first trimester just being really hesitant. I was just really hesitant and cautious. And then especially, like I said, we did a 9-week scan because I was having some bleeding. And, later we found out why, but you never feel good when you see a bit of blood. And so
and especially that when that was the precursor to the first.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. And so it triggered a lot of just insecurities or just fears about the viability of this baby and this pregnancy. And so that was first trimester before you even learnt about all the other risks or his diagnosis. And then so once we got to second and then found his diagnosis, like since then it's just been managing this pregnancy. And so I was talking to my psychologist about it last week of like, I haven't even begun to think about life as a mum, which I think sometimes every now and then I'm like, oh, like not crap, but like, damn, like I'm about to be a mum and I haven't even thought about that because it's just been very much like, let's just get through this pregnancy. Like, let's just get through the next scan. Let's just get through the next appointment. And,
let's just wait and see how things go.
Let's just wait. Yeah. And so I think that's been hard to navigate. But it is what it is, and our minds, it's okay. I think that it's been like that because our minds can only comprehend so much, I think, and accept so much. And so I think sometimes you do just have to take it day by day and step by step. And what I've found, or what a lot of women and mums have told me, is that, like, honestly, you kind of figure out mumhood as you go anyways. So a lot of people haven't necessarily like thought too far by that stage. They're all freaking out in the same boat. So
going through it as it comes. It's been it's still, like you said, a bit of an ongoing process really of like still just believing and like hoping that it's all going to go smoothly and not thinking the worst, but also not getting too hopeful about like it being like really easy and smooth, because that same doctor often it kind of like is still quite reassuring, is like keeps reiterating that it's going to be hard and long. And because for some children, as we started looking into what omphalocele was, you learn that like some kids are dealing with it for several years before they can have it's called the closure surgery, where they actually do the final stitch up. So more so in America, I think Australia, we do things a little bit different. They do a method called paint and wait, which is where essentially they paint like silver nitrate, or that's probably completely wrong, some sort of antibacterial coating on it that protects the membrane, and they leave it just outside the body, and it just like gets wrapped in like bandages and stuff, and the baby then goes home with this essentially like a bulging wrapped up thing with like a bike helmet over it, and they just protect it, and the baby just grows and grows, and they slowly like put pressure on it. Whereas in Australia, or at least in the Mater with our surgeon, he's like, no, we treat it sort of straight away.
Or they'll compress it straight
as soon as
away.
they can. Yeah. So push it down.
They might not close it for a while, but they'll compress it.
Depending on how much skin's there. But just so we were like, okay, but you see these kids that are like 3 years old, and they still have their omphalocele, there's the organs outside of their body, and I was like, wow, that is a long journey, because that's not just like there's a lot behind the scenes that happens in that situation. That family's doing a lot of work to manage that, to protect that. Lots of new routines and things they would have to do. Lots of unseen things that, So it's going to be a journey. It's going to be what it's going to be. And, we're on here for the ride.
Yeah. It's definitely been a challenge. I don't know if challenge is the right word, but it's been a wrestle in terms of we're obviously faith believers, and we've been praying for this boy every night, and praying for a miracle, and praying for good outcomes and good scans, and praying that every time we see a scan that the omphalocele's gone, and when it's not, we're like, okay, well, at least I know for me, I'm like, all right, next scan, God, we just keep believing that. but I definitely know it's been a wrestle for me in terms of holding on to hope and my faith and believing in a God who performs miracles. But then also, like, on the flip side of it, like, knowing that the reality is, like, that with his diagnosis, it means all of that. And, you know, if the miracle doesn't come, God's still faithful, but our lives are still going to be a challenge. I don't know, how have you found the wrestle with faith and with the situation?
Well, we had one of the guys at our church. He's one of the pastors from a different campus. We have anyway. He's awesome. He came to preach at our church, and he has had a really challenging, interesting journey over the last couple of years. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. I won't say his name, but yeah. Anyway, he's awesome, and he came and preached at our church one morning, and really unpacked the story of what's been going on in his life and his family for the last 2 or 3 years, 3 or 4 years, and all the challenges they've gone through, all the hardships, all the unanswered prayers, all of the just moments where they were just so exhausted and upset and like mad, but like how their faith was and how it developed through that journey. And there was some really nice takeaways. And first, it was really nice just hearing that and hearing someone who's like gone through it, has like done all that they can, and come out the other side without,
and didn't see the miracle overnight.
Didn't see the miracle breakthrough that they would have been hoping for. And seeing his faith was encouraging, and seeing his positivity and his trust still in God and his love still for his family, commitment to his family, all these things was really beautiful and really encouraging. And then some of the key takeaways were that we believe that God isn't this being that just grants our wishes, and he isn't this accessory or this partner that we can utilize to implement change in our life. He is like a being that transcends us in every way possible, and he has a plan and a will that is different to what we would perhaps think is ideal, and that he allows us to go through a lot of things, a lot of stuff that builds character, builds perseverance, builds trust. Just is hard. Like, he allows us to go through just really hard things, and that's all part of there's a bigger picture that he is creating, and it's beautiful, and through the hardship he walks with us. That was the most simple and beautiful part of what he preached, was that it's about it's not that God's up somewhere and is watching us and is listening to our prayers and deciding whether or not to act. It's more that God is beside us, walking with us, and we might be praying to him, saying, "Hey, God, can you do this? Can you help us with this?" And his answer just might be silence, or it might be, "No, I'm not gonna make that happen outside of what's naturally going to happen," because there is natural outcomes, but he walks with us. So every step we take, we're he's beside us, and he's there to comfort us, give us peace, give us joy when it seems hopeless, give us hope when it seems hopeless. And so that's been the prayer. My prayer is still, God, we believe you can do miracles, because we believe the Bible, and we believe that you can. We don't demand that you do. We ask that you do, and we believe that you, again, we believe that you can. But we either way, we're thankful that you're walking with us, beside us, and that you're with us on the journey, and that we trust you. Regardless of what happens, what circumstances happen, we trust God. And I would like to think that trust would go beyond any physical outcomes. That's another one of those things. It's easy to say, hard to actually go through. A close friend of ours has recently lost a loved one, and watching him go through that journey has been really hard, where he just prayed and prayed, and things didn't, his loved one passed away, and he was a little bit well,
what does this mean?
Yeah. Like why did that happen? When it seemed really like not definitely cruel, but it seemed really like not the timing that he would have expected. Anyway, how about you? How have you been?
Yeah, I think I remember early on when I was praying, first finding out everything and really believing for a miracle. And I remember going to that next scan and it was just like there was not even like a slight betterness in the diagnosis. In fact, I think it was worse. And I remember that moment just being like, oh my gosh, what does this mean? Like, how can you pray and then not even see like anything? What's the point of praying? And I remember going through like it wasn't a long process. I think it was just a necessary process to actually go, oh wait, hold on a second, like my faith and trust in God isn't dictated by the outcome, and not to, put all your eggs in one basket necessarily. And God isn't, like you said, just a genie that grants our wishes. But yeah, it sent me on that journey to realize that, like, hold on, my faith and my Christianity isn't just in a God who grants me the things that I want, and sometimes he doesn't. And to then wrestle with my faith through that. And I think I learnt, and what I've been learning through this journey is that, like, God, his heart breaks when my heart breaks, and he loves this baby more than I love this baby, and he doesn't wish for illness on this baby. And I think sometimes, like, we can think, oh, like, but God, like, if you can fix this, then you would. So if you haven't, then, like, you must be okay with this. Yeah. And actually being like, no, he's not okay with this, because this isn't the result from him. Yeah. This is the result of natural consequences, or just the natural situation. Yeah. And he hates this, and he doesn't wish for this. Yeah. But he just, like, he wants to bring me peace, and he wants to bring me joy. And he may and he can heal. But if he doesn't, it doesn't take away from the fact that he loves us and he loves his baby. Yeah. And I think that's been a really nice or beautiful journey throughout all of this, is just like finding that revelation about God, and about my faith, and like wrestling with God through that, and kind of getting to this side of like, okay, it's having baby brain moment, but like, you know what I mean? Like, it's beautiful to know that God loves us and loves this baby more than we could ever comprehend. Yeah. Now, in saying that, like, my baby brain is so hard. It's really frustrating. Anyways, yeah, where was I going with that? Yeah, so I think it sent me on that really nice journey of figuring that out and learning through that. Oh, what I was going to say is, I remember I was either listening to a video or a podcast or something talking about a journey this particular person had been going through, and saying like that they had learnt so much about Jesus through this and what it meant to be close to Jesus. And I remember thinking in this moment is just, I would really hate to have gone through this and not have gotten closer to Jesus and felt his comfort more than ever. And I more so made it a mission after listening to that to actually go, you know what? If we're going to go through this, then I'm going to make it my mission to figure out what it is to live a life close to Jesus. Because I'd rather be close to him in this journey than not. And so I think I've been trying to do that as much as possible, although sometimes, it's nice just to feel distracted from everything and not think about it. But for the most part, I think it's been beautiful. And it's one of the things that I'm grateful for all of this, as much as you can be, despite it being really hard. I think I've always kind of but I think I kind of said from the outset, like, you go through moments like this and you kind of learn, like, you either had faith or you didn't have faith, because it's in moments where you need God more than ever that you either hold on to it or you don't.
And sometimes that can be a long...
Totally.
Like, it can seem for some people, especially like different trauma, can be a lot. Things can be a lot worse, but like it can be like a long journey. People have to go on to come back to that point where they find, no, I do have faith regardless of suffering and the outcomes. So I don't think it's like if someone turns away from God after trauma, it's like, oh, they didn't have faith.
No, that's a good way to put it.
But it can be that in that moment they need to
journey
grieve in that
through
way.
that.
They need to journey through the anger with God, frustration, questioning everything, denying.
But I think God wants that. Like,
it's real.
I think that's part of it. It's like, God, okay, if you're going to be angry, then go to God and be angry. Like, if you're going to have questions, then go and question God. Like, He welcomes.
Just be genuine, and all of that is part of it. A genuine human experience.
Yeah, totally. And I think what I also realized is that, like, there have been numerous parts of the journey where God has really protected me and has given me a lot of joy and peace and comfort when it probably didn't make sense to. Because I remember like in those weeks of waiting, as excruciating as it was, I would just go to work, do my thing, like go home, and in my head I'm like, I should probably be sobbing or not okay or just like not even present. But I just remember going to work and just feeling like a peace or just a protection over me to be like, you know what, I can be here and I'm okay. And I'm not only going to be here and be present, but I'm going to be as joyful as I can. And I really believe that the Spirit of God was like protecting me in those moments and really filling me with His presence. Yeah,
awesome. The concept of suffering, we've talked about a bit. We've like talked about with our Connect group and in different moments. And it's something that I'm pretty, I don't know if passion is the right word, but I'm pretty like big on is the idea of suffering and how it fits in with the biblical worldview and Christianity. And it's not like suffering is like oh, look, you suffered and therefore your God doesn't care or something. Like suffering can be really beautiful. And like you touched on before, like there's been a lot that we've got out of this because of this journey. And because of the challenges that we've had in this journey, like we've been closer than ever through this. I've said several times, like I feel like it's brought us closer. We've relied on one another more than we ever have had to. We've seen each other be stronger. I've seen you be stronger through this than I've ever had to see you like in the past. And so it's been like there's been lots of beautiful moments and great things that have come out of this. And I think there often is some sort of purpose in suffering, and it's usually something along those lines that it's sanctifying, it's working, making us more humble, making us more like Jesus. Yeah.
What else have you kind of learnt through this journey? Just in general, doesn't have to be.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be spiritual. This is a moment I could edit out. long pauses with nothing going on. I've learned that it's a bigger deal than what we realize it is. Like being pregnant and having a baby is like a massive deal. I feel like I just was like, you hear about someone having a baby and you're like, oh, cool, you're having a baby. Like,
yeah, you see it on Instagram,
like
pregnancy announcement, the baby.
Like, oh, cool, yeah. Feels like a real, like a non-event in someone's life. Like, oh yeah, you just have babies. It's the stage of your life. You just do it. But then when you're in it, you're like, well, this is such a big deal. This is like crazy. And I haven't even experienced yet the whole, like your life changes when you have a baby. I just mean from like your mentality and the way you view it. Like I viewed pregnancy and having children as like, again, just like you tick the box and everyone just goes through and it's like getting a job. It's not this big momentous thing that, but it is. It's not like a normal thing that you go through. It's pretty huge, and that's cool. So yeah, I've been like often like having a baby and people are like, yeah, cool. I'm like, no, you don't get it. You don't understand. And I'm sure I'll be sitting here in 6 months being like, you don't sleep, you don't understand, and like having the same epiphanies about other things.
Yeah.
That at the moment I don't get.
Totally. Wild.
What about you? Anything else?
Yeah. I think I've learnt lots of different things.
Tell me 3.
Oh, gosh. Well, first one, we can take turns. Try and think of another one if you can. Comparison is just like, it's crippling. And I genuinely mean crippling, because I've had moments where I've just compared journeys and like sobbed on the couch because I'm like, it's not fair, you know. And there is much of this journey that just has felt really unfair. How come they get a healthy baby? And it's not even sometimes to people I know. I remember walking down the street and just seeing someone with a pram and a baby in a pram and just like feeling resentful. Then I'm like, you just get your baby in a pram and you get to walk him. And it sounds like a dog. You get to walk him. No, but as in like you get to go for this motherly stroll. And
you get to just have a healthy baby.
You just get to have a healthy baby.
How dare you?
Yeah, and I'm like, why? Like, why do we not, you know, why does that just make me so angry? And, you know, and so I've learned that comparison is crippling, and you hear it so often, but I think just in these moments, it's such a reminder that, like, everyone just goes through their own challenges, and you will just never, like, some people just don't know what we're going through, and like that's okay. But it's an awareness that people are going through things that you don't know about that is really heartbreaking.
And sorry to jump in, but also that and that cuts both ways. But like some people would look at our circumstance and be like, you guys have a baby.
Totally.
How dare you? Like, be upset or sad about the journey because
100%.
So, and we've had moments like that. We've often thought that we've been like, man, there's people who have just been trying for years, and just can't fall pregnant, and we are like, and it gives us we have moments of like being grateful, gratitude, where we're like, actually, we're just really grateful and blessed that we have a baby. He's in there, he's fighting, he's kicking, he's all these things, and we're like, it's nice to have those moments to realize, oh no, actually, like, we got a lot to be grateful for.
Yeah, totally. I think it's not lost on me. I'm very cognizant of the fact that like infertility and like people struggle, or people are struggling to have babies, and people who have lost not just one baby but numerous babies, and I'm like I can't even imagine that whole journey. And so I think,
but that doesn't diminish ours, and that's
doesn't diminish ours.
Saying. It goes both ways.
It goes both ways.
Doesn't diminish our pain and challenges, and just like when you look at that lady, like she's got her own challenges and things that she's had to go through.
And I think that's when I've learned that I'm like, you know what? The best thing that you can do is just celebrate other people, celebrate them, celebrate with them, because there have been moments where I've wanted to be celebrated through this pregnancy, even though it's been hard. But I'm like it, you know, it was hard to get pregnant, and I'm here and I'm pregnant, and it's been challenging. So the least you can do is celebrate with me, you know, like, and so I think it's made me aware that like you can go through hard things and celebrate with people, and that's a big deal.
Yeah. That's like a pretty profound life thing.
Because I just think that like at some point it's going to be your turn, and other people are going to look at you and be like, oh wow, you're pregnant, and I'm over here like trying my best to fall pregnant and it's not happening. But little do they know that like that person took however long to fall pregnant, and it was hard for them, and so all they want to do is just celebrate the fact that they're pregnant. And you know, anyways, it's a massive topic, and I think all I'm trying to say is I'm just very aware of everyone's challenges, especially when it comes to fertility. That like the worst thing we can do is compare, but the best thing we can do is celebrate.
I got another one. Just popped in my head. Perfect time. You know, when you think of a thing way before, I'll say it before I forget. Like not making jokes or loose, like relaxed comments about babies. That was like one of the things early on we realized. We were like, oh, like this is a big deal, and trying to get pregnant is hard, and the pressure of falling pregnant when you're trying is high. The pressure's there, and so other people making comments, even if it's like just me reflecting on comments I've made in the past, perhaps, it's just so not like nice, not helpful. People are like, oh, so when's it your turn? Like, oh, when are you gonna hurry up and have a baby? Like, if you say that to someone,
They'll cry.
Bad move.
Because I did. Because someone said that to me.
Yeah.
They were like, when are you going to hurry up and have yours? And I'm like, I'm trying.
Yeah. Like, and that's part of that is just not, like, we don't know where other people are at. Unless you actually know. Like, where the people are at and you've talked to them about it. But if it's like a person in a, like, someone that you're kind of like seeing around or you don't know that well, don't make comments about things. Don't make little things like that. It can be very hurtful.
Yeah. Very good. That's a great one. People would appreciate that.
I'm not trying to give advice. It's just something I've learned.
Yeah. Well, like on that advice thing, it's just shut up with your advice. People don't want advice. Very little do people want advice, I've learned. Yeah. Most people just want to talk and like vent or share. They don't want you to, and especially if you haven't been through it, no. Just no.
This is a gripe, isn't it?
Yeah. I've had this revelation recently. I'm like, unless you've gone through something, do not give your opinion unless it is asked for, because you just have no idea.
It's funny because I just realized the one person that would be funny that like we could relate that to. One of our close friends.
We can talk about that later, but yeah. Anyways.
But there is another thing where like sometimes people just, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And someone might think that they've got like an opinion on something and they share that opinion, and then like sometimes you can just, rather than biting their head off and being like, you don't know, you can sort of just be like,
yeah, I think people often have the best intentions. You can say,
they will one day find out.
Yeah.
They will see one day. And then you carry on with your life and you don't have to get...
Totally. And yeah, I think you kind of have to tell yourself in your brain that like they didn't mean harm.
Yeah.
They had good intentions. It's just like probably ill-timed or, you know...
Yeah. I often say things without thinking them through, so...
Yeah.
I get it.
Well, that's one of the lessons you've learnt, so...
Yeah, still do it.
Or hopefully. Other lessons that we've
learned. Try not to.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. We could probably carry on for days.
Maybe like where we're at now, and what the next couple weeks looks like.
Okay.
Because like now we're planned cesarean.
Yeah.
Maybe we wrap up with this.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, sounds good.
Nice.
So where we're at now, we kind of touched on it at the beginning, but plan C-section next Tuesday. In terms of where I am from a practical, I think we've touched on all the logistical things. I'm in a excited / anxious time of my life where I want it to be Tuesday so that we're there, but I also want this period to drag on as long as possible, and not just because I'm enjoying this nesting stage, but more so because I'm actually really terrified of what this next chapter could look like, and I think that has been the wrestle recently. If I'm being completely honest, and I think I can say this, and again, talk to my psychologist about this. Look, there's a lot of things I've had to like work through, but if I'm being completely honest, like on a daily basis, I haven't had to, my mind just naturally wanders into places of what happens if our baby doesn't make it. And that's been a confronting reality to kind of face. Not that it is reality we're facing, but it's just confronting thought that I've had to process. But, you know, my brain's going through its natural protection zone of trying to, like, just preempt and prepare. Exactly. Yeah. And so, you know, whilst the success rates and everything seems good, and again, I probably read too much on these Facebook mums of a foul seal pages where I've seen it go pear-shaped, and I've seen the posts where babies haven't made it. And so I'm just very aware that there are challenges moving forward, and I don't know what that'll look like. And so I think I'm just in this anxious zone of not knowing how to process this next part. And so, yeah, I think in some ways I think I'm also ready because I just want to know, like, does that sound weird? Like, I'm just like, you know what,
Yeah.
let's just get to this part, because I just want to know what's going to happen. And, you know, that's probably my controlling side, wanting to be like, okay, I want to know how long we're in hospital for. I want to know what his condition's going to be like. I want to know what we're going to have to face, and so then I can like deal with it. But I just don't have control over that, and I have to wait and see how this all pans out. But I'm obviously still believing, and we're hopeful and we're faithful. And so when I am met with those challenging thoughts, I'm trying to cover it with hope. I'm trying to process it, but also like cover it with hope and just prayer and faith that God's got our little one. But yeah, like in all reality, that's kind of where I'm at and what I'm facing, and it's been hard. Sorry, it's been hard. And there have been days where it's just like, it's a really heavy moment, and I've had to just try to unhook from the thought or just process with the thought. But that's where I'm at until we meet him next Tuesday. I'm also really excited to meet him. I can't wait to see what he looks like. I'm really curious. Yeah.
He'll be cute, or he'll have good opportunity to build character. That's what I always say. You get two, it's one or the other, and both are beautiful.
Yeah. Anyways, that's me. What about you?
Yeah, similar. I'd probably lead with excitement, because I'm just like pumped now, and I feel like we've been feeling him so much. We've been like, he's had the hiccup, so you feel him like kicking and jumping and moving, and like he seems like, in my mind, he seems very healthy. Hiccuping is a good sign for lungs and practicing breathing, that involuntary. There's the movement, which I'm like, surely that's good for his limbs. You know, when you kick and move in your body around, you're using your abdominal muscles. I'm like, he's active. It seems like a lot of good indicators, and like he just seems like he's a fun little dude. So I'm really excited for that. There's small moments where I still have the dark thoughts, I guess. And particularly when maybe you're going through it and you maybe like say to me, you're worried about this, and I have a moment where I kind of go there in my mind and think, okay, well, yeah, what would that look like? What is the game plan? And just, it's an acknowledgement in those moments that it is still a possibility. I would say it's very unlikely at this point, but still a possibility. And so I hold on to the unlikeliness of it rather than dwelling on the possibility of the complications. Because like you said, you've shared a few stories with me about mothers in this group and sad stories. And in those moments I have to just be like, okay, like, yes, that is very sad, incredibly sad. And that would be so hard to go through, but we're going to believe that's not going to be our story. And then we carry on with life. I'm also working, and work's been really busy. So often it's like, sad moment, sit with you, and then it's like, okay, I've got to go like do some work. Sorry. That's been like a great thing, but a bit annoying. Running a business, and being the sole person in that business, working in the business, is challenging, because I've got a lot of projects. My projects also have long lives. They're not like make a sandwich for someone, send them on their way. It's like you start in 2023 and you finish in 2025. So there'll be projects that I started a year ago that will have things come up in the next month that are like, hey, can you do this? And I'll have to in some way address that. So I'm a little bit like, I'll probably have my laptop with me on the go. We'll be in and out of hospital, I imagine, a lot. So because the baby will be in the hospital and we can't stay with the baby, we'll probably every day, I imagine, or maybe
I'll need to be there every day.
Because for breastfeeding,
Yeah.
or pumping. So like there'll be a lot of in and out to the hospital, and so I'm gonna just try and be present and enjoy the new parent moments, but also like have times where I try to keep the business running and keep people happy. So it's like not ideal. Like I would have loved to just work for a company where I could just switch off, or have a business where I can just say to everyone, hey, gone on holiday for 2 weeks. And there's
an element where
there is an element of that. Yeah, I will be setting auto reply, and I'll be trying to like, you know, hey, if it's urgent, let me help you. Otherwise, like, at least give me a week.
Yeah.
To not really think too much about work stuff.
Yeah.
I think a week's pretty reasonable to ask.
I think what I don't want to happen is for you to have any resentment or regret later in life because you didn't take this part in. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I'm not saying that you will do that, but I think that's just one of my fears and concerns is that, like, you're about to have your first baby and
I'm thinking a lot about work at the moment.
Yeah, and you're thinking a lot about work at the moment and like it should be a really special time for you.
Yeah.
And I don't want you to miss that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yep, I agree. And I could see that being something that would happen. But I'm pretty confident that, like,
I honestly will hit up our best friends if you are not present. They know who they are, and just be like, you need to sort your mate out because
sort your boy. Yeah.
And I think they'll give you a good, like,
what'll be hard is I've got to manage the internal, because, like, it's easy for me not to tell you I'm stressing about work.
Yeah.
But, like, what I've got to try and really aim to do is not actually stress about work in my brain.
But also, I think what I'm hoping for is that, like, you'll see the baby and your perspective will change.
Yeah.
That's what, like,
I like that.
That's what I am excited for.
Yeah.
Is that your alignment?
But I'm like, you know what? Stuff all my clients.
Exactly.
Look at this little dude.
Exactly. I'm hoping that's gonna happen.
I do love my clients.
Not as much as you're gonna love baby Miles.
The little Charles. Little Charlie Chant.
Oh god.
Were you making a play there, or was that just naturally what actually came out?
A bit of both.
Yeah, I thought you were making a play. I'm like, I'll play back. I'll hit tennis.
Anyways, I'm very proud of you. You've been very hardworking. It's not lost on me that you're working your butt off, and you know it's not something that you're like doing because you love it so much. But you're just doing it because you got to do it. But
got to get it done.
Exactly. So I'm very proud of you. But I am hoping that when we have this baby next Tuesday, you're not logging on that day.
Little Chucky. Nah, I probably won't do much work that day. Like, just check the email.
Won't do much. Oh my gosh.
Nah. All right. This has been nice.
Yeah.
Thanks for the chat.
You too.
Chats with the chance.
Chat with the chance.
That's not it.
What? I think it's got a good ring.
Really?
Yeah, chat with the chance. How great. Anyways.
Chats with Charlie Chant.
Next time we film this or film something.
Absolutely, we'll have a baby. We're not doing another one of these before. That's crazy.
True. Yeah, wild.
What's our upload schedule going to be? We're putting this up. This feels like a good video to put up.
You got to edit this crap out of this.
No, I'm just putting it up. It's 2 hours long.
No one has time to watch this for 2 hours.
I watched the other day I watched a 9-hour long podcast.
Yeah, but not everyone's like you.
Yeah, but someone is. And they're going to watch it.
Anyways, we'll see.
Yeah.
There's more so
I just like imagine watching. I have to watch the 2 hours to edit it. That's the hard part.
Yeah, that's why podcasting is hard, bro.
Editing it isn't
podcasting
just like
podcasting and being a YouTuber. It's
although
not all it
there's
seems.
software you can get that it logs all the words and then it gives you like suggestions of like cut this.
Totally,
but
we're not there yet.
Software,
exactly.
I'm not gonna watch this.
But
back
imagine
for 2 hours
back
making little edits, brother.
Brother.
What's that, brother?
Anyways,
we'll see.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's for history's sake. I don't care if people watch this.
Yeah, exactly.
It's for the history. For the boy, for young Charles to watch one day.
Little Miles.
And be like,
little baby small
look at me in there.
Miles.
What a legend. And then like hearing all this crazy stuff.
Yeah, he's going to watch this and be like, Dad, who's
where
Charles?
Things were a bit touch and go. Yeah.
Why'd you call me Charles?
Why did you or why didn't you?
Why did?
Hey,
why did you why did you call me Charles in the video, not in real life?
Both are beautiful names.
Both are, you can't lose.
Whatever he ends up being.
Yeah.
He's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
Chucky.
Ew.
Chucky Chant. It's kind of cool.
Sounds like Chuck E. Cheese.
Was Chucky from Rugrats?
Yeah.
Yeah, what a dude. Anyway,
let's wrap it up. He had to develop some personality, though.
Yeah. He's a ranger. A ranger, miss.
It's got to stop now. Okay.
All right, love you, babe.
Love you.
Love you. Love you, whoever's watching this, family, friends, us in the future. Thanks for being here for such a long, long time with no edits. Not a single one. Even that middle section where I just like went silent for a bit because Veda put me on the spot and I had nothing. That's in there as well.
You're welcome.
Love you all.
It was more so when you started to talk science about stuff, and I was like, ugh.
It's not that bad. I
Nah,
didn't hang out too long on anything, did I?
Nah, you did fine. You were great.
All right. Let's
You
hit
were
it.
great.
You were
Okay.
great.
Thanks. All right.
Show us your bump. Get your bump out.
Okay. Here he is. Can you tell? I think you can tell.
It's this wide angle lens, bro. I don't know about it.
Anyways.
And this shirt you're wearing, I don't know about this shirt thing. It's my shirt anyway.
Yeah.
It's cute. All right. See ya.
Make it stop now. But turn it off. Turn it off. How embarrassing. Do look pretty good. The hair.
My finger's so pressed on the button that any minute it's just going to turn off. And you're going to be in the middle of doing something awkward.